Okay, perfect.
Mm.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to thank our sponsor, Olivia, and my sister Aden, who wasn't able to make it. And she wanted to dedicate it to the Refuah Shelema of Chana Leah Sarah Bat Pesha Gitel, and also for the Refuah Shelema of Rafael Chaim Meir Ben Simachasha. So Bezrat Hashem, in honor of this shiur, may they have a Refuah Shelema, Refuat HaNefesh, Refuat HaGuf. Is there anybody else that you want to add in there? Okay, so אסנת בת תרצה מרגושה חיה, ירדנה בת אסתר, ולכל חולי עם ישראל בעזרת השם, may we only see healthy kids and people and no more sicknesses בעזרת השם. Okay, so the show that we're going to talk about is how not to compare yourself to other people. And I think it's such a beautiful topic because especially in this generation, we have a really hard time not comparing ourselves to other people. And there's a lot of jealousy and a lot of, I want this and I want that. And why don't I have this? And why don't I have that? And it's very, very difficult to, kind of get yourself together and, not let it affect your happiness and your self-esteem and your confidence. And all those things really run together. So in Pirkei Avot, we're introduced to the term jealousy, which is really, directly correlated to comparing yourself to other people. And it says in Hebrew, "Akin'a, ateava ve'akavod, motzi'in et ha'adam min ha'olam." So in English, the translation is jealousy, desire, and seeking honor will remove this individual from the world. What does that mean, really? It really warns that those three things, the jealousy, that seeking honor, and the desire, are going to completely remove you from this world. But what does that mean, remove you from this world? It means that really it will lead to only bad and then later on destruction. And so it shows you that those three traits are really, really, really dangerous. And especially in this generation, we can go from here to here very, very quickly. And so it's very important that we really are extremely careful with these traits, but specifically comparing ourselves to other people and being jealous of other people. Yeah.
Desiring what?
Like desire
Like
itself, like
desire?
tava is like the negative desire. So like sexual desires or things that, we're not meant to do. So for example, like a married woman going with someone else while they're married, things like that, of that nature.
Monetary desires also, or just
It could be monetary as well. So there's one point that needs to be made, is that we're constantly surrounded by comparisons. Today we live in a very, very jealous society, and it's really because we have this social media that's constantly comparing us to other people, and it's constantly exposing us. Really, the issue is the exposure. Because if we lived in the desert and there's no one like showing off their Porsche, we're literally chilling in the desert. There's no need to, where's the Porsche and the red car and whatever it is. And so the majority of all the feelings of jealousy, insecurity, resentment really come from social media. And what do you see on social media when you're scrolling? This one has abs. This is the mother of 5 who literally, she's wearing a bathing suit and looks perfect. And this is the perfect wife, and she has enough time for her husband and her kids, and she makes healthy snacks, and I don't have time. So we're literally seeing this illusion of what's really not there, because that woman who's the perfect wife is not really the perfect wife. She's just shown as the perfect wife. So the bottom line is really that we're comparing ourselves more than ever before in history because of this social media. And it's funny because when you tell people, okay, get off social media then if that's the issue, or, take a digital break, they're like, no, I can't do that, but if we knew to what point it's so toxic for us, we'd be like running for the hills and be like, hey, I'm taking off my Instagram, I'm taking off my Facebook. In my case, and in many cases, what happens now is that your business is integrated with social media. So like, for example, I'm an integrative health practitioner. I need to put stories of my knowledge of, how to like help your kids with a cold or whatever it is that, I share out there. And that's really where I get my clientele from, because people ask me questions and then they want to know more and all those things. So I'm really kind of stuck because I really do want to delete my Facebook, Instagram, but then, it's very hard to generate leads. And so I'm like, okay, I'm always stuck. So what do I do in this situation? Especially for those people where it's business related and you still need to have a social media account. What you do is you personalize the feed. So I don't follow women who are like in bathing suits all day or are, the perfect, females or whatever it is. I just follow everything that's health related. So, like healthy snacks, healthy this, that, but I won't follow specific people that will kind of like ignite this, like, why don't I have this? And why don't I have that? Because I know it's just not good for me. We have to be really strong and know, first of all, how to personalize our social media. If it comes to the point where we really do need the social media for business affairs, or if you really just can't do it, then just kind of know how to play with it and work with it. So I follow Jordan Peterson. You guys know who it is? He's a Canadian psychologist. You should know, huh?
The one you showed me?
Did I show him to you? He talks a lot about like children, but
The
he
one
also
with the black hair?
no, that's someone else.
Mhm.
But so Jordan Peterson, he's an amazing psychologist, and he wrote the book 12 Rules, like 12 Rules for Life. He is amazing. So I follow his talks, and he talks about the impact of comparing ourselves to other people. And he says, all we see from the outside is the shiny car, the big house, the perfect family, but we don't see what's going on within, right? Sounds simple enough. But he gives an example. Maybe you're seeing someone speeding down California with a nice convertible Porsche, and you're like, look at this lucky guy, driving down, has no worries, the wind is in his face, music is blasting, you're like, oh, I kind of want that life. But you don't know if he's thinking to ram his car into the next, cement pillar because he's miserable and he's just, wants to commit suicide. So, we don't see the hardness of life with other individuals, because what do they want to show? Their life is perfect and everything is good and there's no issues. But what happens, pay attention, when you see someone crying on Instagram, or where they're showing their rawness, or when someone comes crying to you because of their problems, you become more like empathetic, and you're like, wow, I really could relate to this person because I'm also going through struggles. That's really where the akhdut comes in, the unity. And I noticed that actually when I was in Israel, this was about, I think, 6 years ago. It was the war of Tzukitan. And we were gathering supplies for the soldiers in one of the malls, because I had moved to Israel at the time. And, I said, let's, like get a big cart. And during the war, people were like bringing like socks, whatever it was that the soldiers needed. And people were writing letters to the soldiers, like, we love you and thank you for fighting for us and all those things. But it's because we were in such a khudut, we're in such unity, because we weren't comparing ourselves to others. We're just thinking, oh my God, let's get through this war. We're all going through the missiles and this and that. So we really find unity when we see the hardships in other people and not just the perfect picture. And so going back to what Jordan Peterson was saying, he says that I know a handful of people, and this is quote unquote, this is what he says, who are extremely wealthy, but the burden of responsibility they carry is almost soul crushing. They're just working around the clock, 90-hour weeks. They're not coming home to see their families. They're not going to sleep on time. They have thousands of people depending on them. So they're barely sleeping because they have so much anxiety. And so I want you to just know that there's a price to be paid for everything. So, somebody who prays for Parnassah, or somebody who prays that their husband's going to be a millionaire, gazillionaire, whatever it is, you have to know what you're praying for, because that means that all the time that he's spending now with you, he's not going to have that time anymore. He's going to have to go, hustle and bustle. He's going to come home very anxious. He might even skip dinners and want to go straight to sleep because he's so exhausted. That takes time away from you. So you have to also know what you're praying for. Like, what do you really want to be blessed with? Because sometimes you see all these things and you're like, wow, look, he bought her this beautiful ring. But you're like, in the back of your mind, maybe the reality is that he comes home every night at 11 p.m. and they fight every night because she wants to spend time with him, and all he does is get her diamond rings. So what would you rather, right? At the end of the day, we don't really see the back end of things. We don't really see what's going on. So going back to social media, it's so beautiful because every time there's an issue in every generation, there's always a solution in the Torah. And when you look at the social media, we say there's something called a digital sabbatical, right? Because it's really just taking a break for social media. But we have that every single week. Every single Friday night, we turn off our phones, for a day and a half, we turn off our phones and we don't have those distractions. So we're able to focus on our families. We're able to kind of, lay low. Even that individual that's all day on the phone, anxious, this business issues, he's turning off the phone on Shabbat. So Shem really saves us from being, kind of deep into that hole of comparing and this and social media and really being in that rot. So I thought that was beautiful also, that really Hashem gives us a solution to every single problem. The second point with comparing is that we really lose sight of our potential, because if we're constantly trying to emulate someone else, then we forget, what do we have here? What are the values that we have? What are the capacities that we have? What are the abilities that we have that we can use and bring to this world that somebody else doesn't have? And so we really start to lose sight of our potential, our values, and our abilities, and the special gifts that we hold. And so we're consciously putting just efforts on trying to copy someone else, trying to get what they have. But really, we're losing sight of everything that we own, that we have, that we've worked and strived for. But because that other person has more, you're focusing on what you don't have. Yeah.
I don't know if you'll have the answer, because I don't know if there is an answer to it, but is it as soft to have social media? Because it makes you like see so much negative, or might make a man cheat on his wife, or a woman do something that like it might make people do things that they're not supposed to or they shouldn't, and they maybe wouldn't have done it if they weren't so influenced. You know what I mean?
I think that it's like a she'ela for your Rav. I think everyone has different opinions. Like some rabbis will say absolutely not, and other rabbis will be like, listen, if you're not as affected by it, which honestly I think every single person's affected, you can't really,
Yeah.
you can't be strong. Like it's like you're putting a rabbi in an island full of girls. Like I'm sorry, at one point, like you could be the most religious, the most hamunah in the world. Like you're gonna end up. It's just you're still human. You're a product of your environment, and I'm gonna get to that in one of the points, which is interesting. But I want to make a statement, and it's something that you should always remind yourself, literally put a sticky note on your fridge. If something is meant to be yours, it will be yours. When you focus on this aspect and you focus on gratitude and what you do have, and you trust Hashem that this is what's meant for you, that's it. You see some people getting married at 18 and they have 5 kids, and you're like, oh my God, she's such a young mom. She's like 24 and she has like 4 kids already. Oh my God, she's living life. And this person's getting married later on, and this person has this car, and this person has this house. But if you're focusing on what you have, and you have emunah that this is exactly for you, and Hashem is building this world for you, and those challenges are for you, and you have those capacities for you, for your world, for your challenge, for your tikkun, then it gets much easier. A lot of times we look around the room and we think, I want to have what she has, or we think, I want that to be my life. And there are a few reasons why that life can't be yours. Okay. So one, you wouldn't be ready to receive it, either mentally or physically, whatever it is, whether it's a monetary value or, whatever goal or whatever thing that you see that you really want. Maybe you're not ready to receive it, or maybe you will receive it later on, that it's not the right time. It would do you more harm than good. Or whatever other reason or plan that Hashem has that we just cannot understand. It's out of our scope. So if we don't learn to appreciate what we have, and we keep focusing on that's supposed to be mine, and why don't I have this, and why does she have that, then we're constantly taking away the blessings that we do have, because we're shifting gears. Instead of being like, thank you, Hashem, for my kids, for my health, for my husband's panasa, even if it's not 40,000 a month, it's at least, we have food on the table, Baruch Hashem, and our kids are healthy, and that's wealth. All of these things are mindset shifts. Nothing has changed. It's just your mindset. If we don't learn to appreciate what we have, it's going to lead to a lot of issues, a lot of negativity, and jealousy really is the one midah, and I say this in all of the Torah, that really eats you up inside. It's so destructive. And there's a source here in the back that I actually didn't include, but they said, one who is envious gains nothing, and the one envied loses nothing. There's really nothing constructive about envy unless you use it for like, oh my God, this guy is a Talmud Torah. He makes time to study Torah every night. I'm also going to study Torah. That's a really good way to be envious of someone, because you're trying to get better. It's a constructive, jealousy. But the jealousy where you're like, I want that, it really eats you inside out. And the Talmud emphasizes the futility of envy, because the person who is envious gains nothing, and the person he's envious of loses nothing. So there's no reason why you should envy someone. It leads me to another point where one of the secrets to really staying away from comparison is really, and it sounds so cliche, and I've mentioned this before already, thanking Hashem every single day. You want more water? But consistently, because if you thank him, okay, once in a while when things are good, okay, it's nice. But if you thank him every day, even when there are challenges, like my kids were screaming all day today, and I'm like writing the show, I'm like, Hashem, like I really don't know how I'm gonna like speak tonight. Like I was like, I'm not prepared. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. And they're screaming, and I'm like, you know what? Thank you, Hashem. Like I know that I'm capable. I'm gonna do this. Like just a change in mindset.
And
Huh? No, they continue yelling. Always thanking Hashem, no matter what we have at the end of the day, no matter what challenges we're going through, is really, really a game changer. There's a beautiful book, by the way. It's called, I think you have it, or we might have it in the house. It's called Say Thank You and See Miracles by Rav Shalom Arush. He has a compilation of 190 stories of personal anecdotes of people who had tumors, stage 4, lo alenu, huh? It's called Say Thank You and See Miracles. Things that were like the doctors were like, that's it, it's over. Like, you say your goodbyes. And all they did was thank you, Hashem, thank you, Hashem, thank you, Hashem, for my challenges. Thank you, Hashem, that I'm alive, even for a second, even for the next week. And Baruch Hashem, just by saying thank you and by recognizing Hashem and everything that happens, everything went away. And I'm talking about like crazy stories. You guys really have to read the book because it's really like beyond nature. Like, this is Hashem's doing, and and you see and you feel.
The way how you think.
Of course.
You can move all day.
Yeah. The way you perceive things, and just say thank you, Hashem, even if it's like something that you're like, I can't believe Hashem did this to me. What did I do? And if you go into that rabbit hole versus like, it's okay. Like, I know Hashem, you're doing this for a reason. I know I have the capacity and the tools to overcome it. That completely changes everything. It changes your whole mindset and changes really the directions of your life and the decisions that you make. According to Rav Nachman, judgment can only come to a person if he is in constricted consciousness. What does that mean? It means when you don't see the full picture. Most people are in constricted consciousness today. And what does that mean? They do things out of obligation. Getting up in the morning, okay, I have to do this all over again. Going to a job that you hate and you're like, I don't even know why I'm working, but you keep doing it, right? You're doing it out of obligation where you're not really consciously thinking about things. And this is where it doesn't go anywhere because you don't align your mind with your heart. Now, this comes back to thanking Hashem. If you're like, reading the Mizmor LeTodah and you're like, Mizmor LeTodah, and you're not really saying the words, you're not even thinking about what the words mean, and you're just like, hey, I have to do this because, Sharon said so in her shiur, it's not going to go anywhere. You have to align your mind with your heart, and that's with everything that you do. And that's where the bracha and the shefa comes in, because Hashem knows. It's in Yom Kippur, there's a song, how does it go? So there's a part where it says Bochen Levavot. So Bochen Levavot, what do they say? It's a trait of Hashem. It means Bochen, he tests your heart, what's in your heart, because if you have something in your mind, but it's not really aligned with your heart, then it doesn't really mean anything. You have to really do everything with a lot of love and a lot of kavanah and a lot of really like taking everything and saying, I'm going to do everything for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I trust Hashem and I have emunah in Hashem. Yeah.
But sometimes I want to ask you, if you pray, sometimes people pray and I read Tehillim every day, but sometimes I'm not focused sometimes because I'm thinking about something else, but I need to read the Tehillim. So it's not going to go to him.
It's a very hard question because sometimes, they say fake it till you make it. And sometimes it really does help because when you create a routine, then sometimes the kavanah comes later.
It is routine.
Right.
Yeah.
But then sometimes there are days where you have kavanah, right? So most of the time, yeah. So we're human. I mean, of course it's going to be.
On my mind or something.
Right.
So I just read it and I said.
But at least you're still doing it.
Right.
At least you're still doing it.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's exact.
I'm sorry, I'm not in the mood today.
No, that's my routine. Coffee and tea.
Amazing.
You're inspiring us.
That should be a thing. Coffee and Tehillim. That's amazing.
Coffee and cigarettes, and now I'm coffee and tea.
So you up?
Yeah.
That's amazing. She really did a whole transformation. She's amazing. So when you think Hashem, it should be with your mind and heart aligned. And you should be doing it because you want to do. You want to thank Hashem and that you're not just thanking him like because you have to and you're like, okay, thank you Hashem for my health. Like, no, thank you Hashem for my health. Like, oh my gosh. Like I don't even want to see what goes on in Joe DiMaggio with all the kids who, are, God forbid, we don't want to know. I remember I took my son there for an x-ray, and I didn't want to like even enter that place. It's just so sad. Like
Yeah.
the parents spend months there. Like it's like a life or death sentence every single night, you know, and it's like I wake up in the morning, every morning that my kids are healthy. I'm like, thank you, Hashem. And I'm really envisioning, you know, like, thank God that I don't have to be at the hospital every day, you know, with those challenges, Hashem Yishmor, and
Leaving that hospital is like
the best thing ever,
most
right?
the
It's
biggest
crazy.
relief.
Yeah, her son was also like in the hospital for,
Just going to that hospital, every time I leave, I don't go so often, but my son, I don't know, he's like Shoba. Every time I leave, I'm like,
yeah, it's
it,
very,
you just, I don't know, you feel so like your neshama like goes down. I don't know. I don't feel like any connection at all.
yeah,
Then you go to the kosher room and you feel
it's
good.
great. Yeah, exactly.
It really like, I think it saves
You
you.
know,
Yeah.
one time I was in the hospital and I saw a mom with the wheelchair, her son sitting on the wheelchair, and he was with
Oh, it's
cancer.
horrible.
And I told my husband, it's like, thank God for my grandkids, and thank God everything.
It's really
so
incredible.
sad.
Yeah.
I mean, to imagine this mom to take her son with the wheelchair and he's like, hell and no.
Horrible. So it actually reminds me when I was 9 months pregnant, I remember with Rafael, I was like literally due any second, and my son had to go to the hospital because he was like fighting like 3 different infections, and it was COVID time, so they didn't allow me to go with my son, and he had to be with my mom for 3 nights in the hospital. And every night I would like look at the empty crib and just like cry myself to sleep. And I remember in the car, I was just like, Hashem, I'll do anything. And I'm crying and like, you know, all emotional, whatever it is. And I knew that came from the heart. And sometimes it's very hard for us to connect with Hashem. Sometimes it can't be from the heart. Like you're just like, like I don't feel it. So Hashem has to put you in those toiling moments where you're in challenges and you don't have a choice. It's like coming up and you're like, Hashem, like help me, because I'm not in control. So something very beautiful that I love to do, and I kind of want to like make these journals that say thank you, Hashem. And
There's a prayer.
it's
The prayer of things.
no, yeah, the prayer of things, but something that I want to add to it is keep a journal of the things that you're thankful for, and just add 3 to 5 things every single day, because when you thank Hashem, it will help open up your heart a little bit more, because then you can relate, you see all the things that you're thankful for. So in the beginning, it's going to be like my health, my legs, my hands, my eyes, you know, all these like, you know, the foundational. Then it will start to be like, you know, the breakfast my husband made me in the morning, and you know, all these little things, and then you'll start to become even more hyper aware of the things that you're thankful for. And I think that's really such a beautiful habit, because that's where it's going to be a seed in your head where there's no more comparing. You're like, I'm so thankful for all these things, like look at all the pages I'm filling up. The more you write the things that you're thankful for, the less you're going to have this inclination to be jealous of other people, or, you know, to be, you know, comparing yourself to other people, because you're like, this is my life. This, like, look how many beautiful things I have.
Literally have to physically delete social media. You wanna get to that point.
I swear, yes, it's
On
hard.
social media, there's no, even if you like write that you're thankful.
It's
for
hard.
everything,
Yeah, it's very
you're
hard.
still gonna be scrolling at night and be like,
It's,
You
yeah,
done?
better to pick it up if you don't need it.
What are you working on?
Oh, hold on. Sorry, did you have a question?
I heard someone.
Yeah, I heard someone too.
I thought it was outside, but I guess it wasn't.
I think I hear someone. Okay, now you're on mute. Okay, now I think you can talk. I don't hear you for
Chat-
some reason.
chat
Let
with her.
me see. You can write on the chat maybe, because I'm not able to hear you for some reason. I guess we'll continue. Okay, we'll continue, and then if you have a question, I'll read it from the chat. So there's something, so I wish my grandma could understand, because she speaks Hebrew, but I wish you could understand this shiur. I'm gonna call her tomorrow and be like, Savta, I spoke about you in my shiur. She does something every single morning, and so we have an apartment in Bat Yam. She lives there now, and it's right across the ocean. So when I was pregnant, and this was back in October, I went with my husband and I stayed at her house, and I saw her in the morning, Like I woke up early in the morning and I see her like in the balcony going like this. I'm like, what is she doing, you know? And I see her saying, Toda Hashem, Toda. I'm literally like coming out of the balcony and I see her saying, Toda Kadosh Baruch Hu, Toda Hashem. And she's like saying all the things that she's thankful for. And I thought that was so beautiful. And she told me she does this every morning. She goes outside, like looks at the ocean, but then she looks up at the sky and she says, thank you, Hashem. Like she really does the physical movement, like Toda Kadosh Baruch Hu. And I think some people need that. They really need to like connect with Hashem through like the motions and being like,
Yeah.
Hashem, you're here. Thank you, huh?
They need their whole body to see.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like when I do Hitbodedut, I'm like, thank you, Hashem. And then I talk to him with my hands and like everything's all good.
Funny.
Yeah, he's my best friend, bestie. So, you know, if you could do that in the morning instead of a journal, you could go outside and be like, thank you, Hashem, for the beautiful day or whatever it is. Just start kind of being more cognizant of Hashem always being there and what he's giving you. Another thing we have to understand is that we have our own mission in life. And so the mission that you have, or the mission that you have, or the mission that you have is very different from my mission. And so I can't have the tools that you have because my mission is very different than you. So Hashem will give you different tools in order to handle your challenges and your stresses. And I'll have different tools to handle my challenges and my stresses. And so if I compare myself to you and I'm like, I'm so jealous, she has this and that, but she has a different mission than me, then those tools are never going to help me. So if you think about that and you're like, I'm so jealous that this one has a jet plane or whatever it is, and he has a private jet and whatever it is, at the end of the day, if you don't need that private jet to get to your tikkun, then at the end of the day, what's the point? Okay, yeah, you enjoy the jet here and there, but at the end of the day, we really get used to everything. That's another point, that really materialistic, and it's crazy because every time I'm like, it's really an illusion. Every time I'm like, I'm gonna get this new bag, like I'm gonna be happier. I'm gonna get this new thing, and you think like
Yeah.
it's really gonna last. After 2 days, that's it. Like you're used to it. It's really such a. It doesn't matter, Chanel, Hermes, whatever it is. It doesn't matter the brand. It's really that's it. It's the illusion in life. And so, when we focus on the fact that everyone's mission is so different from ours, it gives you kochot because you're like, I don't need what she has because I have what I have. And she doesn't need what I have and I don't need what she has. And so when you realize that you have this emunah in Hashem, and you're like, this is my tikkun, and this is what I need, and this is for me. The world is built for me. The vessels that I have are for me. Then it's much easier to kind of focus on what you have and be thankful for what you have because just your mission is just completely different. The only person you should be really comparing yourself to is who you were yesterday. That sounds so like cliche, but it really is that because that's a game you can win. If you're comparing yourself to someone else who has a different mission than you, different vessels, different this, you're never going to get there. But if you're comparing yourself to the person you were yesterday and you're like, how can I get better? That's something that you can always win because, you can continue enhancing those vessels because those are the kelim that you need. So another thing is when we take time to self-reflect, this is where we realize we have the tools to deal with challenges, but we don't really have time to self-reflect. In between cooking for the kids or school or college or whatever it is that, whatever phase you are in your life or with work or, chickweed baths, whatever it is, whatever point you are in your life, we have to take time to self-reflect and be like, who are we as people? What vessels do we have? How can I be a better person? What are the personality traits I need to work on? What type of person do I want to be? What future, do I want to give to my kids? Whatever it is. The time that we have to self-reflect, and this is where Hashem again gives us another gift besides Shabbat, the time for self-reflection is the month of Elul, right? We have an entire month before Yom Kippur to be like, okay, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I need to work on X, Y, and Z. So there's something that I do every Yom Kippur. I write a letter to Hashem and I say, I feel so guilty because I did this and this and this year. And I promise you next year, I'm focusing on this specific thing. So every year I have a theme. So it's either like Lashon Hara or more tzniut or I don't know, whatever it is that you guys want to focus on. You put a theme and you say to Hashem, you write a letter and you say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this year I'm going to focus on this trait. And what that does is it makes you appreciate your kalim because you're doing better. You're ambitious. You find a goal in yourself and you have that self-reflection to keep going and to keep building that good character, to keep building that confidence. So Shironi to go, but want to thank you, Atzlacha. Very cute. Thank you so much. So it's very, very important that we have that time to self-reflect during the month of Elul, and we really do kind of look inwards. What are our weaknesses? What are our strengths? How can we use that for the following challenges later on in life? The second to last point is really watch what you consume. And this is back to social media. One time I spoke to Rabbanit when I was, becoming a little bit more religious in Israel. I told her, I'm like, but how do you do it? Like I was living in Tel Aviv, like I had a really nice apartment, going out to Shalvata, clubbing every night. Like I was really not there. But then like I was doing like Shiurei Torah also like once a week. So I was like, kind of getting there. She said, it's very simple. Imagine your heart is like a lion. So what do you feed it? Are you feeding it the ta'ava, which is the desire, going out to clubs every night, wanting to look pretty and flirting in this? Or are you feeding it more Torah? Are you going to go more to Shiurei Torah during the week? Or are you going to go clubbing more during the week? Whatever you feed your soul, that's what you're going to have, because we're a product of our environments. So we have to watch what we consume. If we're going to consume social media all day and we're looking at girls who are much prettier than us and have this house and have this car and have these amount of kids and look how pretty these kids are, whatever it is, we're constantly going to be comparing. It's going to be a vicious cycle.
And you want to attract it.
Exactly. And you want to attract it. And it actually says when we do the Shema, "Lo taturu acharei levavchem v'acharei einechem." What does that mean? You shall not tour after your heart and you shall not tour after your eyes. But what does it mean, tour? When you tour the land, how do you behave? When you go like on a trip, how do you behave? You eat whatever you want. Obviously, you're not going to be on a diet when you're on vacation. You spend whatever you want. You're very frivolous, right? With how you behave. And that's because you're like, I'm on vacation. Come on. It's just another $5, 10, and then at the end, it's like a $10,000 trip, but whatever. So you can't be frivolous with your souls. And that's what he's trying to say. Al tatu acharei levavchem, your hearts, v'acharei einechem. Watch what you consume. Don't be frivolous with what you consume, because that's going to come back. You cannot unsee something. So there's a show on Netflix. I'm not going to say the title because it's a Shiur Torah, but it's about a girl, and it really touched me because it's something that can happen to anyone these days, and not to anyone, of course, somebody who's like very strong and is constantly in the Torah and is religious and has a religious foundation. Bezrat Hashem, Baruch Hashem, probably will not fall. But this woman had 2 kids. Good-looking husband, a beautiful mansion, literally the perfect life. And she had this like obsession with her ex. Like she was not over her ex, but like she got married, she had 2 kids, and it shows like the day-to-day life of this girl. And then it shows that she like goes into Manhattan one day. She was like living like in the suburbs somewhere, right? I don't remember which city it was. Huh? No. It's just like a stam like show on Netflix. And she goes into the city and she sees her ex like walking down the street. And she's like, oh, everything's reignited and the adrenaline rush and the butterfly, you watch it, and the butterflies and whatever. And she was like, this is the life that I want. She was like, I don't, not that she didn't care about her kids, but she was like, this is the life that I want. Because she was so like living in her past and she didn't accept that she was a mom and she's,
I was thinking about that when you were saying so.
Really? That's so funny. Yeah. And so look, at the end of the show, what happened? She went to him. She left her kid. She destroyed a family.
She got what she wanted.
She what? She got what she wanted. But really, at the end of the day, what is that? It's a ta'ava. It's a desire. In the same way that you buy a Chanel bag and you get used to it, it's going to be the same thing because it's fake. It's an illusion. How many times can she be with that guy? And then at one point, it's not going to be a real thing. It's not the real thing. So sometimes we really chase illusions in life that really don't exist. And then we destroy things. We destroy families because, we're living in La La Land, or because we're comparing ourselves to.
With the husband, so if you find
I don't know if she wasn't happy. She was looking elsewhere. She just was not. She was like
playing with fire.
Right.
You can't play with fire.
right.
But if you're not happy, you work on it. If after working on it doesn't work out, then divorce.
She
Don't
does it
Exactly.
the wrong way.
That's-
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that what did she do? Instead of saying, don't consume this or don't like add to the fire, she should have just went home, focused on her family, never gone back to Manhattan or whatever it is, and then never see him again.
Gave like the wrong message.
Right. But then she continued igniting the fire. She continued to consume. She continued to, like feed that desire. And so that's what happens. So again, we're all human. You could be religious, not religious. The other day I heard about a tragedy. I don't know if it's in Hollywood. I hope not. Shem Yishmol. That there was like a couple that was friends with another couple. And I'm not even joking. The what? No, of course not.
I don't know.
No. The husband came to drop off something at the
Other
couple's house,
couple's
but the husband wasn't there. It was just the wife, and she was in the kitchen. 10 minutes, guys, 10 minutes. She just dropped off something, like just a few conversations. Something happened.
In those 10 minutes?
And it was destroyed. Two families destroyed.
It was
It was
cooking.
ignited
Yeah.
before, but what I'm saying is that
It was
don't
cooking
add
before.
to the fire.
Like
If
amazing.
you know that chas v'shalom, for whatever reason, you're attracted to your friend's husband or whatever, there's some sort of planted seed, don't go there. Don't feed it, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, even if you're married, whatever, have kids and you love your kids and it will never happen, don't put yourself in a room with another man. Just don't do it, because we're human beings. It could be a spark of a second where it's like a chemical reaction. I mean, we're made up of energy. We're made up of biology. And it could be a spark. It could be anything. So again, watch what you consume, watch what you feed yourself, because we're humans.
Especially in Florida. I
We're
feel like
it's
Yeah.
so hard.
It's a style to cheat, to be
They
disloyal.
make it very like okay in shows.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you love him? Okay, so it's okay.
They
to cheat.
normalize
Okay, you
it.
love her,
They normalize going after the desire, the adrenaline rush. It's that's what we
It's
think
a
is
voyage.
normal. It's a good, it's a good feeling, but it's temporary, and it destroys families. It destroys lives. Like, people commit suicide because of these things. Like, we really have to be careful with what we consume. And the more we consume things that make us envious, jealous, resentful, unfaithful, the closer you will get to this exact thing. And now it starts very innocent. It starts with a Netflix show. And then it starts with going out with friends, and then, kind of like extending a conversation with someone who's not your husband. And then it just leads to other things. And that's why Hashem is so smart. Thank you,
So
Hashem.
no iPhone.
He gives us rules.
Also, that's what
He gives us rules, of
Yeah.
course. And that's new also. He
He
really
really
do-
Right.
Exactly. Al tarbeh sicha im ha'isha. It's like a known thing. And, there's some feminists that are like, oh my God, look what it says in the Torah. Like, don't have too much conversation with a woman. But they're trying to protect you.
Yeah.
Like, don't
This
fight
is an
against the Torah. Like,
exercise.
Hashem made us. He knows, like,
Yeah.
what we're capable of. So again, with the Shabbat, with the self-reflection on Rosh Hashanah, with the don't consume what you don't need to consume, like, it's really for our good. It's just so important to really, watch our eyes. And, I was telling Olivia, like, I'm such a big fiction reader. Like, I love like romance, but I don't know if you watch A Court of, oh my God, I love. And do you know A Court of Thorns and Roses? Okay, literally one of my favorite books. But she's like an international bestseller, like whatever, one of like the best like romance books, whatever. But it's like a sci-fi. I never read sci-fi, but like I fell in love with like that series, whatever. And like, it's not bad because it's sci-fi. So it's not like I'm gonna be like, I want my husband to be a fairy. Like, oh my God, like it's not, I know that that's not going to like make or break, whatever. But I know that there are some fiction books that I shouldn't be reading, and I really stay away from them, because I'm like, sometimes there are books that are really inappropriate that make you, kind of question like your romance and your relationship with your husband. And it's just going to add to the fire. And it it makes you delusional also sometimes, because you're like,
Yeah.
I want this, and this doesn't exist, it's
Right.
just in books. So
They
stay in
bring
your
up-
books.
They could bring up problems they don't even have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So basically, watch what you consume. And the last point I want to make is there's a famous hypothesis in psychology, and it's called the just world hypothesis. I don't know if you know it. So it's basically that we have a strong desire as human beings to see the world as a fair and just place. That is a very dangerous theory, because the world is not fair and the world is not just. And so if we're like, this person is like the rudest person ever, but she has a mansion, I don't get it. Hashem, why do you do? It doesn't work like that. Like, Hashem doesn't work that way. And usually the more things you have in this world that are good, like mansions and this and that, the less you have in the next world. So we really don't want to focus on this illusion that, oh, if she's a good person, she's going to have these, like, good things happen to bad things happen too.
Good people.
No, bad things happen to bad people and good things, like people
Okay.
believe that
Yeah.
bad things happen to bad people and good things happen to good people. The world does not work like that. And if you fight against it and you're like, I deserve this, why does she have that life? And you keep saying, I deserve this, I deserve this, I deserve this, and you keep thinking that this world is like, it works that way, then it really also puts you in like a very negative state of mind. And we have to like really not go against that hypothesis because it doesn't work. The world is not a just and fair place. And, you know, there are very horrible, horrible people, very cheap people that have the most money in the world and they won't spend a dime on whatever it is. I mean, Shashem Yisachli, God forbid, like God forgive me, I cannot handle those people. I can't tolerate it. People who have so much money and they do not give to charity and they don't give to, you know, very big organizations because I'm like, what are you going to do with all that money? Buy another jet plane, you know, like just do good with the money. But anyways, it doesn't work that way. So, you know, it's important that your mindset is not, you know, the world is just place because it's not. And the more you believe that, you know, Hashem is going to give you what you deserve, whether that's good or bad, and then you're going to handle it and just have emunah that this is the right thing for you, the better it's going to be. And unless you're going to compare yourself to people because you have emunah, this is my challenge. This is, you know, it's what I have, the tools that I have to deal with this challenge, this person doesn't have. And this is why their challenge is different than mine. I also heard in a Shul Torah that the people who have the biggest challenges are the ones that have the most koach that Hashem gave them. That scares me a little bit, but it's true because Hashem is not going to give someone a challenge they can't handle. It's never going to happen because Hashem wants you to grow. And in order to grow, He's going to send you somewhere out of your comfort zone, not somewhere like, oh my God, let's feed you to the sharks because then you're going to get eaten, but somewhere where, okay, you got to fight to swim. And I think that's a very important message. Because the more we understand that we have those tools and capacities to overcome whatever it is that we have, and Hashem has customized it for us. And this is where we're like, I don't need to compare myself to other people because this is my challenge and this is how I'm going to grow. And this is how I'm going to be happy and happy with my lot. So I want to I always end with, well, she's new here, but I always end with a toolbox. So it's something that you can apply to your day-to-day life. So number one, keep a list of what you're grateful for. We said 3 to 5 things a day. 2, and this is such a beautiful one that really helps with not being envious of others. Give 3 compliments every day. You could give 1 compliment to yourself and then 2 to other people, but literally look in the mirror and be like, you are an awesome mom. You're doing amazing today, whatever it is. 1 to yourself and 2 to other people, because then it's also going to build a habit of, I'm really genuinely happy for you. I'm so happy for you. There was a shiur Torah that I watched today about like being thankful, and Rav Igal Cohen goes, you know those girls who were like the most hated in school and like they weren't even like pretty and weren't even popular, and it's like they're the ones who get married first, and it's like dafka, like, you know. And he was just like, it was so realistic because I'm like, really, there are people out there who are genuinely like, why do they have that? Like, I'm a perfect person, no, why? But Hashem knows better than us. We really don't know why we have these challenges. Hashem knows more than we can ever imagine. Our scope is so small. It's like when you explain a child, when you vaccinate them, you know, because you're trying to protect them from diseases, and they're like, you're clearly hurting me, or this is so painful. We can never explain to them what vaccinations are because they're just too small. They'll never understand. In the same way, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He can't really explain it to us. But it's only after we have our challenges that we see how much we grew. And Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, Zichrono Livracha, is amazing, amazing wisdom. He wrote a book and he started the chapter and he said, we go through life moving forward, but we only understand it looking back. And when we look back at all those challenges, in the beginning, before the challenge, what do we say? There's no way I could do this. There's no way I could. How could I ever imagine something like this? I'm not going to be able to get through it. And once we get through it, looking back, let's say 3 years ago, whatever we went through, we're like, oh my gosh, I did it. Like I went through it. So we always say, I'm not capable, I'm not capable, I'm not capable. But looking back, we understand life. We really understand where Hashem is. So Hashem is hidden looking forward, but usually we see Him looking back. So another thing is change what you consume. So we said, instead of Netflix, watch a shiur Torah. You know, instead of reading a fiction book, I'm gonna, read a shiur Torah or say a shiur Torah or prepare a shiur Torah, whatever it is, just kind of try to limit what you consume. And then if you can't limit it, then try to change what you consume. So instead of it being a book or a Netflix or whatever, then okay, a documentary if it, if you don't want it to be a show to something that's not going to plant that seed in your head where the desire, the tava, the jealousy will come in. And the last thing is remember that only you has the tools and the capacity to reach your own tikkun because everyone's is different. And you can never have what that person has because it's not meant for you. And whatever is meant for you will be yours. And that's it.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Joanna. VIP